In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mack. We are back once again, and we got a few things to talk about today, including an interesting little story that I'd like to share with you now about this Q post. So, fist bump your neighbor, grab your coffee, do whatever it is that you do, make a little small talk. Hey, how's the kids? Like your hair? Is that a new thing that you're doing? Okay, then sit down and then be quiet. All right? I'm trying to tell my story. Jeez. Post 4279, 53 minutes after the hour 2, we get this flag right here. And we've seen this flag many times, haven't we? It's a typical American flag, right? Or is it? Is there some embedded imagery going on in here? Well, there's a lot of different theories, and I have heard multitudes of them. And although I don't usually express a lot of them because I don't think any of them are completely concrete at the moment, there are a lot of people looking into this flag. But today we're not really looking at the details of the flag so much, just the fact that Q posted it. As you can see, it is entitled For Easton. Well, that was the title of my video from yesterday, and here's the thumbnail of that video. And this was the interesting story, at least for me. It's just a simple little personal interesting story, but as you can see on my thumbnail, there is a mask there. I was originally going to title something mask something, unmask something. I don't know what it was going to be. It was probably going to be freaking sweet. You would have loved it, but it would have had to do with mask. That was the whole point. I didn't give it a lot of thought because I made it before I made the video, but I ended up making the video, going through the Q post, and then of course we got to this story right here about Drew Parker. And Drew Parker is the father of Easton, who he lost to brain cancer in September. And as we were talking about this story, I think it just kind of all hit us a little bit, tugged at our heartstrings, right? It was a tough little story because it's such a handsome little guy gone so soon. You know, he loved POTUS and was a young patriot. This one's for you, Easton. So as I was going through the video, I was like, well, no, let me just call this For Easton, and that's exactly what I did. However, at the point that I was finishing up the video, 4279 had not been posted yet. The funny thing was for me is it seems like I have kind of this, I don't want to call it a symbiotic kind of relationship with Q. It's just sort of an ironic relationship, if anything. But I posted the video, and immediately after, like Q likes to do, dropped a post 4279, and entitled it For Easton. So I had a laugh right there because I had just in the middle of the video decided to change the title to For Easton, although I had not included this picture, which I did now, which is in the thumbnail. Now, see, it's all connected. It's all connected. That's what it's like to be in the near future. Everything's all connected. Anyway, so I thought this was a great story, and I really appreciate the fact that Q highlighted Easton. As a matter of fact, looks like Patriots did too, made Easton a meme. Now, if you're not familiar with meme culture, if you make it as a meme, you've made it, because memes are forever. Memes endure, just like this patriot right here. And look at him. He's got a little musket right there. He's ready to go at a moment's notice. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen? This is the highest form of honor than you can get. This is bigger than Master Blaster. Okay, Space Force Master Blaster, that's a rank that I made up. It's not a real rank, okay? Don't come at me. But it's even higher than Master Blaster, Ultimate Patriot. And you know what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen? I'm going to hold on to this meme, which, by the way, is Drew approved. It's on his profile, okay? So Drew approved this one. Anyway, I'm going to hold on to this meme, and I'm going to wait until the boom really drops. And I'm talking about, it's got to be a boom, like a Moab, up in your face, bacony, cheesy, all up in your grill kind of boom. And you know who's going to pop up? Easton Parker, like a boss, the ultimate patriot, the ultimate meme, the ultimate time. Congratulations on your meme immortality. We will use it wisely. Thank you, Easton. Post 4280, 59 minutes after the hour of 12. Q takes us back, yay, to the 14th of May, just a few days ago. Near past, no big deal. Guys like me do it all the time. I want to rememberize you of the fact that the picture on the left is of a soldier or an actor pretending to be a soldier. I don't know. But he's got a Punisher logo on his chest, and he's got the names of the Benghazi survivors on his fingers and hashtag Hillary on his thumb. Might be relevant. And the link was to a Politico article talking about whether or not Lindsey Graham was going to go after Obama or not. Q says, worth remembering, think chess. Do you attack the king in the beginning or middle to end? Queen protects king. We'll talk about that in a second. But now Q adds on this Twitter link to CBS's Catherine Herridge, otherwise known as See Her. News conference Q plus A with AG Barr. Wait a minute, I read that wrong. News conference Q&A with AG Barr. Quote, as to President Obama and VP Biden, whatever their level of involvement based on the information I have today, I don't expect Mr. Durham's work will lead to a criminal investigation of either man. Our concern is focused on others. And let's listen to him say it himself.
Not every abuse of power, no matter how outrageous, is necessarily a federal crime. Now, as to President Obama and Vice President Biden, whatever their level of involvement, based on the information I have today, I don't expect Mr. Durham's work will lead to a criminal investigation of either man.
Okay, so I suppose we could sit here and mince his words, but the fact of the matter is Q is highlighting I have today, suggesting that maybe Barr will have something tomorrow, maybe next week, maybe a couple months from now. I don't predict dates. They do call me Mystic Mac. We don't know. We don't know when this will be. We do know that Durham is conducting a criminal investigation. So whatever this is going to result in will be criminal something. Criminal indictments, charges, we don't exactly know. Now, a lot of people have talked about some sort of form of Durham report. Durham doesn't necessarily have to furnish any kind of report necessarily, not to us, but whatever we see will come out of a criminal investigation. And Q is sort of suggesting that maybe something could come from this. Now, let me take you back to this post from the 14th first, because I wanted to highlight that this was about Benghazi and Hillary, and the article was about Lindsey Graham protecting Obama. And many of you wrote to me or commented to me suggesting that maybe Q is suggesting that Lindsey Graham is the queen and Senator No Name McCain, whose name we don't say anymore, could be our king. Now, I suppose that could be possible. A lot of intel was flooding through his organizations, his little humanitarian groups or whatever. Looked like they were more like intel gathering groups and fundraisers. But we also know that No Name McCain was out there in Syria, likely without a proper visa, handling some business, moving some guns, moving some money, moving some intel, likely all three. So is that the case? I suppose so. But again, I want to remind you of the picture. We were talking about Benghazi and Hillary. Hillary sounds more like a queen to me, and the king would be Obama. And this Twitter status here from Catherine Herridge was talking about Obama. The Politico article was talking about Obama. Seems like he would be the king. We're not going after the king. Is something later going to turn up that would make us want to go after the king? Well, this is the part where I'd like to suggest the importance of this drip, drip, drip through the media. And I want to use CNN as an example. CNN didn't get to the public narrative the way they did by doing it one time, one show, one big blockbuster overnight. They got there by getting in every airport and every single media outlet that they can find so that you saw it every single day for decades. Drip, drip, drip. Just like water torture, right? It's just one drop, no big whoop. But after about 1 million of them, it feels like an ocean, mocking you, slapping you in the face, torturing you. And when you truly know your enemy, you know those kind of tactics and you know how to use them against them. It's the same thing that we're seeing with this vice abuse. Drip, drip, drip. All kinds of conservative reporters saying, where's the outrage? Where is the outrage? Well, we know there's no outrage. You have to see it. You have to show the public, right? And it means you got to show them day in, day out, day in, day out. You got to wear them down. This is a war of attrition, right? So as this news drips, drips, drips all the way up to the elections, it would suggest to me that a bigger narrative is still forming. There's a lot bigger stories to be revealed, and the FISA is the start. Those are your Q posts. Now I want to talk to you about this. I ain't done with you yet. All right, sit down if you're standing up. If you're not standing up, then you're already sitting down. So I wasn't talking to you. No reason to get defensive. Air Force Space Wing Commander dies at Peterson Air Force Base. This was from May 13th from starsandstripes.com. Air Force Colonel Thomas Falzarano, who commanded the service's 21st Space Wing, was found dead Tuesday at his home on Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado, service officials said Wednesday. The Air Force has opened an investigation into Falzarano's death, but initial indications show he likely died of natural causes. Okay, so let's stop right there. Initially, when they found him, they assumed natural causes. Now they're opening an investigation. Now, that might just be a routine thing, but just saying. Officials said in a statement, Falzarano, 47, was not believed to have contracted the corona, which is otherwise known as the cov. That's what the young kids call it, the officials said. By the way, I don't have it. As the leader of the 21st Space Wing, Falzarano was also the senior commander for Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado Springs and the nearby Cheyenne Mountain Air Force Station. The wing and the two installations are critical to space-based operations, which he led for the Air Force since July 2019 and for the Space Force since December. Air Force officials on Wednesday described Falzarano as a talented space officer who is expected to become a general officer, likely in the Space Force. Okay, so he was probably going to get a little promotion. Now, it goes on a little bit to talk about his experience before taking command of the 21st Space Wing. Falzarano spent a year working as Raymond's executive officer at the former Air Force Space Command, which has since morphed into the headquarters of the Space Force. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I am but a humble simpleton, but I would offer to you that I think this story is much bigger than advertised for a couple of reasons. Number one, the mainstream media, although they all have touched on it, barely went into it other than to announce that he passed away. Now, it could very well be that he passed away of natural causes, but this seems very curious, and let me show you a couple of reasons why. As the leader of the 21st Space Wing, so we know right off the bat, this guy is in charge of a pretty big deal, the 21st Space Wing. Falzarano was also the senior commander for Peterson Air Force Base. Okay, well, if you're the senior commander on any military base, you're beating out some other brass just for that position alone. It's a pretty hefty position, and it's something that's pretty substantial. But also the nearby Cheyenne Mountain Air Force Station, which I would suggest to you is likely the biggest assignment of them all. You may remember this story from The Drive. We talked about this back in March. U.S. Northern Command has dispersed essential command and control teams to multiple hardened locations, including the famous Cheyenne Mountain Bunker Complex in Colorado, as well as another unspecified site, and is keeping them in isolation. And this was when the Rona was starting to really get everybody into a big panic, right? Now everybody realizes that maybe not everybody has the Rona, like me and a lot of you. We don't have it. But back then we didn't know that yet, right? It was March. We weren't sure. You got the Rona? Don't know. I don't know. I mean, we need testing. So they took these guys and were putting them into these hardened locations, including the famous Cheyenne Mountain Bunker Complex. Okay, well, our guy just happens to be in charge of this place. Now, to give you an idea of how serious I think this place really is, I want you to check out this about a 3-minute video here to give you a real good idea of how serious this Cheyenne Mountain Bunker Complex really is.
One of Cheyenne Mountain's nicknames, if you will, is America's Fortress. So we do occasionally, we'll call ourselves America's Fortress for a reason, and that is because we are, by design, here for the worst day in American history. We are sitting here today as the #1 DoD rated EMP protected facility. We like to say we're the most secure facility in America, because when you're doing command and control of our nation's defense, the security levels are very, very high. Hearing that thud of the blast door shutting, it leaves an impression on you that you're inside some place that not everybody can get to, and it's someplace important. So one of the ways I try to describe what Cheyenne Mountain is for, and really kind of an analogy that people can understand why it's here and what our mission is I equate it to the nervous system in the human body. If you sort of see satellites, ground-based sensors around the world, mobile systems that send us signals, all those hundreds and thousands of sensors around the world that send signals back to us to tell us about an airplane, about a missile launch, about stuff in space for our national defense. If you equate those to sort of the nervous system of our body, ground-based sensors, satellites are out there. They're going to be the first things that sense or detect something going on. Then they have to be fed somewhere. And so what Cheyenne Mountain really is sort of becomes the brain stem where all those nerves come into, similar to your body. We correlate that data so that it becomes a coherent message. And then we pass it on then to the decision makers, the national leaders of the United States, the President, the Secretary of Defense, the National Command Authority in the Pentagon. But before they get it, it has to be that correlated. So that's kind of where I look at it as sort of the brainstem of our nervous system. So part of my job as the Deputy Director for the base is kind of like running an underground city. And with that comes some very unique challenges. And the fire department is one of the most unique fire departments I've ever worked with in my entire career. But likewise, civil engineers, the structural folks have to watch geological movement, rock falls, spalling of the rock in the tunnels. That also presents a very unique mission set. Our communications engineers, how do you get comm lines into a tunnel a mile underground? And then the plethora of other base support functions that I have to provide every day. A small chapel, a small hospital, a small dining facility, those life services that you want to bring to the employees that are down here doing the mission. So we always have to keep an eye towards that modernization, that reinvestment that goes along with the new mission systems, the new mission partners that move in, so that we can continue to provide that national defense for the next 50 years.
Okay, so like I just said, I'm a bit of a simpleton here, but I understand well enough to know that this is a pretty big deal. The spinal cord of our nervous system, I believe he said, right? That sounds pretty significant considering it's for the whole country. And this place was like the premier place to protect against EMPs. Sounds pretty legit. This guy, Falzarano, was in charge of not only this base, but Peterson Air Force Base and the 21st Space Wing. Sounds like Falzarano was a pretty big deal. And of course, he worked directly with this Terrence O'Shaughnessy that we just mentioned in the previous article that was talking about locking up all these key figures down there in the mountains, I should say up there in the mountains during the Rona. What the first article failed to mention was that Falzarano has worked on a number of other stations. And one in particular that I want to turn your attention to is the last one, the very bottom line here, and supported 4 other Air Force installations around North America and Greenland. More specifically, Thule military base. And we've talked about that before in my video entitled Iceworm. This was from the 21st of August. And we talk about not only Thule Air Force Base, but we talk about Space Force. We talk about the importance and the history of the base, as well as the construction underneath there. We go into the Thule Society, which we're not going to go into in today's video, but it's a really, really big topic. And I mean massive topic worth understanding, and I can't help but think the base out there was a sought after piece of land from a lot of folks. As a matter of fact, I was alluding to it back then. That was why I was suggesting that maybe President Trump really was serious about buying Greenland. Seems like something's really important there. But we also go into these underground aquifers that reside over there in Greenland, so please check this video out entitled Iceworm to get a little background here. But this guy was stationed over here. Being a Space Force guy, it shouldn't be much of a surprise. But the point that I want to make is that it looks like our guy Falzarano was a very important guy, an extremely important guy, and we lost him. I also quickly want to note that, like I mentioned, the underground aquifers in the video Iceworm under Greenland, it appeared to be that there was some underground rivers we just saw in the video over there in Colorado. Hint, hint, wink, wink. So we lose one of our key guys, and in the same time period, China loses one of theirs. This is from YNet.news. Chinese ambassador Du Wei, he is the Chinese ambassador to Israel, was found dead in his apartment in Herzliya on Sunday morning. He was 58 years old. The death was confirmed by the envoy's deputy Dai Yuming in an official press briefing. Although the cause of death has not yet been revealed, sources say the ambassador suffered a cardiac arrest overnight and was found dead in his bed by his assistant. So everyone's being found dead now. Maybe it was the Rona. Don't have it, do you? He was appointed the ambassador in February in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic. Listen closely. He had previously served as China's envoy to Ukraine from 2016 to 2019. From 2016 to 2019. Interesting. He is survived by a wife and son, both of whom are not in the country. But here's the part I want you to see down here. This is a video that he made on Friday. He posted a message via the Chinese embassy's website rejecting claims by U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo of a coronavirus cover-up. Side story, Mike Pompeo was just in Israel. The Chinese embassy in Israel said Pompeo has over years been labeling Chinese products, investments, and people as security risks without producing any evidence to support his claims. We trust that our Jewish friends are not only able to defeat the coronavirus, but also the political virus and choose the course of action that best serves its interests, said the statement. Okay, so there are a lot of moving parts to this story. I can't even begin to pretend to understand it fully, but I will say this. It looks like some sides are playing some other sides. We have a bit of a triangle here, right? We've got the US, China, and Israel. And it looks like some factions in Israel are seeming to try and pit the US against China, try to bang those war drums like I was saying the other day, making this a big media firestorm, which I have a feeling that is going to be the new direction in the mainstream media. This, of course, is going to hurt the Trump campaign if so. Now, when I say Israel, I don't mean the people of Israel. I just mean a particular faction inside of Israel that might be motivated to do so. At the same time, it also looks like China is pitting the U.S. against Israel. China's complaining about the Rona, saying that Mike Pompeo is saying that all these products we're bringing into Israel are bunk. And now we've got this curious timing of the unveiling of the Space Force flag, which I have a feeling was more of a shot across the bow or a warning to China. And now, of course, we've got this Space Force launch from May 17th, the robotic X-37B spaceplane on a new mystery mission. Blast off! Secret X-37B spaceplane launched by the Space Force. U.S. Space Force to launch X-37B spaceplane on OTV-6 mission. Now, you may have heard about this launch. Let me skip you down to the meat of the story here. While the X-37B's exact purpose is a secret, Space Force officials have revealed that the craft is packing numerous experiments on this trip to test out different systems in space. Now, check out some of these experiments. Some of those experiments include a small satellite called Falcon Sat 8, 2 NASA payloads designed to study the effects of radiation on different materials, as well as seeds to grow food, and a power beaming experiment using microwave energy. The U.S. Space Force and Air Force Rapid Response Capabilities Office have 2 of the miniature shuttle-like X-37B spaceplanes, also known as orbital test vehicles, or OTVs, that it uses for classified military missions in low Earth orbit. Okay, I want to stop right there because this sounds a little bit more like a modern version of something we've talked about a lot before called MOLs, or Mobile Orbital Labs. These used to have people in them, and then later on they used them unmanned, and they were part of this whole program known as Keyhole. They were satellites, and you've heard Q reference these before too. One of the series of satellites in this Keyhole program was known as Corona. Those are the coronas that we perceive Q is talking about being shut offline in some past Q posts. So that's what we were talking about. They have flown 5 missions since 2010, 4 of them on ULA Atlas V rockets, and the 5th on a SpaceX Falcon 9. So it looks to me like the race for space supremacy has gotten very real, with China, US, and Israel being major players. So you've got the elections going on in Israel. You've got Pompeo's visit to Israel. You have the death of the Chinese ambassador, which just so happens to involve Ukraine and Israel. And now we have one of our top Space Force guys passing away, and there's an investigation going into that, so we can't even really comment. But what we do know is that he was one of our top guys. And of course, now we've got the Atlas V launch with all these different experiments, and they're involving radiation, microwaves, who knows what else, right? And along with that, we've got the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. And along with that, that is going to bring the total number of Elon Musk's Starlink internet satellites up to almost 500. He had originally said anywhere between 400 to 800 were going to be needed for him to roll out the first global internet service. If you want to know more about this, we go into it deeply, hint hint, wink wink, in my video Into the Deep in Pursuit of Truth Presents from February 25th. I highly suggest this video. Honestly, I think it's a bit slept on. 97,000. Get that over 100K. Get it in your life. It's some good information. We talk all about Starlink, which I'm not so sure that I trust, but it's definitely going on and you ought to know about it. But that's all I got for you for now. Thanks for watching. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. If you're watching me on YouTube, check out the video description for the links below. Otherwise, check out my alternate videos here that I just showed you in this video if you want to get some background information. My email is also down below. If you have information for me, please do not DM me on the Twitter. And my P.O. box is down below if you want to send something old school. My Patreon is down below if you want to support the channel. They're all down below. This is Sir Patrick Mack, and until next time, stay focused.